Have you ever met someone who just felt too good to be true? Like they walked straight out of a movie, charming and a little mysterious, making you wonder what secrets they held behind those captivating eyes. Sarah had. And it was exactly that feeling that both drew her in and terrified her, because in her life, too good to be true usually meant about to fall apart. Sarah Hayes was a woman who knew the taste of struggle intimately. Living in the quiet, tree-lined suburbs of Portland, Oregon, she navigated her days with a fierce, quiet determination that most people mistook for calm. Beneath that composed exterior, however, was a relentless current of anxiety, a constant worry about keeping her head above water. Her two kids, Lily, 6, with her bright, inquisitive eyes, and Tom, 4, a whirlwind of boundless energy, were her universe. They were also the reason she woke up every morning before the sun, pushed herself through grueling shifts at the local diner, and then spent her nights applying for every job imaginable, only to be met with silence. Being a single mother in her early 30s with a stack of medical bills from Tom's recent ear infection and a landlord who was growing impatient, Sarah felt the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders. Her old beat-up Honda Civic was a miracle of engineering, held together by hope and duct tape. Her apartment, while small, was meticulously clean, filled with the warmth of crayon drawings taped to the fridge and the faint smell of instant coffee. She had dreams, big ones, once upon a time, a cozy house with a garden, a stable job, maybe even a partner who truly saw her. But those dreams felt like distant stars now, replaced by the more immediate need to put food on the table and keep the lights on. She'd tried dating a few times since her ex left, but each attempt felt like a clumsy dance, either with men who wanted to fix her or those who saw her kids as baggage. So she'd given up, pouring all her energy into her children, convinced that love was a luxury she couldn't afford. It was a Tuesday, a particularly dreary Portland day, when the rain seemed to weep alongside Sarah's spirits. Her car, in a spectacular display of automotive defiance, decided to give up the ghost right in the middle of a busy intersection. Lily started to cry, and Tom, sensing the chaos, began to loudly demand a superhero cape. Sarah, drenched and utterly defeated, just leaned her head against the steering wheel, a silent tear tracing a path down her cheek. This is it, she thought. I'm officially at rock bottom. Just as despair began to truly set in, a man appeared at her window. He was tall, with kind, weary eyes and a 5 o'clock shadow that softened his sharp jawline. His clothes were simple, a faded denim jacket and worn jeans, but they fit him well. He looked like he'd seen a few hard days himself. Need a hand? He asked, his voice a low rumble that somehow cut through the rain and the kids' whimpers. Sarah, initially wary, watched as he effortlessly pushed her car out of the intersection, and then, to her utter shock, offered her a ride. His name was Ben. He told her he was a freelance carpenter, new to town, just trying to find his footing. He spoke of struggling to make ends meet, of a past he didn't elaborate on, but his eyes held a depth that suggested a silent story. He helped her get home, even brought her a hot coffee and a pastry for the kids from a nearby bakery. His kindness was so unexpected, so pure, that it chipped away at the wall she'd built around her heart. But as he left, politely refusing her offer of payment, a strange feeling settled over her. His worn-out truck had a dent in the fender, and his hands were calloused, just like any working man. Yet, there was something in his eyes, a flash of something ancient and knowing that made her wonder, who was this man really? And why did she feel like she'd just met someone who could either save her or break her all over again? After that first encounter, Ben started to appear in Sarah's life with a regularity that was both comforting and slightly unnerving. It was never a grand gesture, always something small and thoughtful. He'd happen to be driving by when she was struggling with grocery bags, or he'd bring over a small hand-carved wooden bird for Lily, a simple toy made with an artist's precision. He even fixed a leaky faucet in her bathroom, refusing payment, his excuse always being, just happy to help a neighbor out. He was consistent, kind, and genuinely interested in her kids, listening patiently to Tom's ramblings about dinosaurs and Lily's elaborate stories. Sarah found herself looking forward to seeing him, a feeling she hadn't experienced in years. She started to let her guard down, slowly, like a flower unfurling after a long winter. She told him about her struggles, her dreams for her children, her anxieties about money, and he listened, truly listened, without judgment or pity. Life in those early weeks started to take on a gentle, hopeful rhythm. Sarah found a part-time job at a small bookstore, a place she adored, surrounded by stories and the scent of old paper. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Ben would often meet her for coffee during her breaks, or sometimes he'd just be there, waiting with a smile as she picked up the kids from school. They'd spend evenings at the local park in southwest Portland near the Willamette River, watching the kids play, talking about everything and nothing. He spoke of his own past in vague terms, hinting at a difficult childhood and a desire for a simple life, a quiet existence away from something. He never quite said what that something was, and Sarah, so caught up in the warmth of his presence, didn't press. She'd learned that people had their reasons for keeping things close to their chest. She felt a connection with him she hadn't thought possible, a sense of ease that allowed her to breathe freely for the first time in years. One evening, as they sat on her small porch, the city lights twinkling in the distance, Ben shared a memory. "I grew up in a place where you didn't trust easily," he said, his gaze distant. "Saw a lot of things. Learned early on that money doesn't solve everything, and sometimes it just makes things worse." He paused, a flicker of pain in his eyes. "I just wanted to escape that, find a place where I could just be a good man." Sarah saw the vulnerability in his confession, a raw honesty that resonated with her own experiences. She knew what it was like to want to escape a past, to yearn for a fresh start. She told him about her own father, who'd left when she was young, and the years of her mother struggling to make ends meet. "We all have our ghosts," she whispered, reaching out to gently touch his hand. "The trick is not letting them define who we are now." In that moment, surrounded by the soft glow of the porch light, their hands clasped, Sarah felt a profound shift. This wasn't just a kind stranger anymore. This was Ben, a man who understood her, who saw past her struggles to the heart she held within. As weeks turned into months, Sarah's life truly began to blossom. The bookstore job became full-time, her kids were thriving, and the constant knot of worry in her stomach started to loosen. She even managed to get her Honda fixed, though Ben insisted on supervising the mechanic. With Ben by her side, everything felt possible. He was a steady presence, a quiet strength she hadn't realized she desperately needed. She found herself smiling more, laughing more freely. She started to dream again, small, domestic dreams of a life shared, of building something beautiful together. Then came the letter. It arrived one rainy afternoon, addressed to Ben, but mistakenly delivered to Sarah's apartment due to a similar address on the street. It was a thick, official-looking envelope, not the kind a freelance carpenter usually received. And the return address? It was from a prestigious law firm in New York City, a firm Sarah had only ever seen in financial magazines. Her heart began to pound. Curiosity, mixed with a growing unease, gnawed at her. She knew it wasn't right to open it, but the mystery of Ben's past, which he'd kept so carefully guarded, suddenly felt too potent to ignore. Just as she was about to put it aside, she saw a single word printed beneath the law firm's name: Heritage. And below that, in smaller print, a name: Maxwell Enterprises. Maxwell. She'd heard that name before, whispered in the news, associated with vast wealth, unimaginable power. Her hand trembled as she held the letter, the simple white envelope now feeling like a Pandora's box. At that exact moment, there was a knock on her door. It was Ben, a wide, easy smile on his face, holding a bouquet of wildflowers. "Hey, I just came to check on you," he said, his eyes sparkling. "Everything all right?" Sarah quickly hid the letter behind her back, a cold dread washing over her. "Yeah," she managed, her voice a little too high. "Everything's just fine, but it wasn't, not anymore." The secret was out, or at least a hint of it. And Sarah knew with a chilling certainty that her simple carpenter was anything but. The next few days were a blur for Sarah. The letter felt like a lead weight in her stomach, a constant reminder of the secret Ben was keeping. She tried to act normal, to laugh at his jokes, to hold his hand, but a wall had started to build between them. She couldn't shake the feeling that everything she thought she knew about him, about them, was a carefully constructed facade. The kind carpenter who fixed leaky faucets, the man who spoke of wanting a simple life, was somehow connected to Maxwell Enterprises, a name synonymous with billions. It didn't make sense. It couldn't make sense. The trust she had so painstakingly built was now fractured, replaced by a swirling vortex of confusion and a bitter taste of betrayal. One evening, unable to bear the weight of it any longer, Sarah confronted him. They were at their usual spot in the park, the setting sun painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. "Ben," she started, her voice trembling, I need you to be honest with me. Who are you, really?" She pulled the letter from her bag, the crinkle of the envelope sounding like thunder in the quiet evening. Ben's easy smile vanished, replaced by a look of profound sorrow and resignation. He took the letter, his gaze falling on the return address, and for a long moment he just stared at it, as if seeing a ghost. Then he looked up at her, his eyes filled with a pain that Sarah had never seen before. "Sarah," he began, his voice barely a whisper, "I am Ben Maxwell. The Ben Maxwell, or at least I was. My family owns Maxwell Enterprises." The truth, when it finally spilled out, was both shocking and heartbreaking. Ben wasn't just a billionaire. He was the billionaire, heir to a vast corporate empire. He recounted a childhood of unimaginable pressure, of constant scrutiny, of a family driven by power and money, often at the expense of genuine connection. He told her about a scandal that had rocked his family years ago, a bitter corporate battle, a betrayal by someone he trusted, and the subsequent media frenzy that had left him feeling hollowed out and exposed. He'd tried to escape it all, to disappear, to find a life where he was valued for who he was, not what he owned. He'd cut ties with his family, walked away from his inheritance, and traveled across the country, landing in Portland with nothing but the clothes on his back and a desire to start over. He'd found work as a carpenter, learned to live simply, and for the first time in his life felt a sense of peace. He hadn't meant to deceive her. He'd simply wanted to protect this new, fragile life he was building, a life where he was just Ben, a man who loved her and her children. The letter, he explained, was another attempt from his family's lawyers to draw him back into the empire, a constant reminder of the world he was desperately trying to outrun. Sarah's initial reaction was a whirlwind of emotions: anger, hurt, confusion, and a strange sense of relief that he hadn't been lying about his feelings, only about his past. Tears streamed down her face, not just for the deception, but for the profound loneliness she suddenly understood he had carried. She saw the man before her, not the billionaire, but the man who fixed her faucet, who made her kids laugh, who brought her coffee. She saw the Ben she had fallen in love with, and realized that his truth, while complicated, didn't change the core of who he was. "Why didn't you tell me?" she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "Because I was afraid," he admitted, his own eyes brimming. "Afraid you'd see the money, not the man. Afraid you'd run." In the days that followed, they talked, really talked, for hours. Sarah, with her pragmatic heart and unwavering belief in honesty, finally understood the depth of his desire for a normal life. She saw the scars his past had left, the genuine fear he had of losing the simple, beautiful life they were building. Her anger slowly faded, replaced by empathy and a renewed sense of trust. She realized that Ben's dark past wasn't a malicious secret, but a burden he had carried alone, a silent plea for acceptance. She had been searching for an honest, good man, and she had found him, albeit with a backstory far more dramatic than she could have ever imagined. One crisp autumn morning, as the leaves turned golden on the trees lining her street, Ben proposed. Not with a diamond the size of a pigeon's egg, but with a simple silver ring he'd crafted himself, inlaid with a small piece of salvaged redwood. He got down on one knee in her small living room, the kids watching wide-eyed from the doorway. "Sarah," he said, his voice steady and full of love, "I don't have much to offer you in terms of material things right now, but I can offer you my whole heart, my honesty, and a lifetime of trying to make you and your children happy. I want to build a real life with you, away from all the noise. Just us." Sarah, tears of joy streaming down her face, said yes. It wasn't about the money or the lack thereof. It was about the man who had seen her at her lowest, who had shown her kindness when she needed it most, and who, despite his incredible past, chose a simple, real life with her. They decided to stay in Portland to build their life brick by brick, not with inherited wealth, but with shared dreams and hard work. Ben eventually re-engaged with his family, not to reclaim his fortune, but to create a foundation that would help single mothers and struggling families in their community, channeling his vast resources into something meaningful and impactful, a legacy built on compassion rather than power. Sarah and Ben's story became a quiet legend in their corner of Portland, a testament to the idea that love can bloom in the most unexpected places, that secrets can be healed, and that true wealth lies not in what you possess, but in the connections you forge and the lives you touch. It was a story of hope, of second chances, and of finding your true self. even if it means walking away from everything you were born into, just to find the one thing that truly matters. So, if you liked this story and you want to hear more tales of love, resilience, and unexpected twists, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss what's next.